What you're looking at is probably the essence of what we're talking about here. It's basically an off-grid application where it uses composting toilets, and the gray water then flows off to a leach field on shore. And what this has to do with is basically in concert with what I was saying yesterday about rainwater. If you have no access to water, if you have no access to utilities, composting toilets and leach field design is an attractive alternative. This is probably what most people think of when they think composting toilets, the old classic privy. It basically stood the test of time. The only problem was that it was a little bit smelly, and the reason it was smelly was it was an anaerobic digestion process, and because it didn't have oxygen, the byproduct was methane, hydrogen sulfide. But again, it was inexpensive, reasonably portable, but it just, the all-weather path trip was the major downside. In 1939, there's a fellow named Richard Lindstrom, a Swede, who invented the Clivus Multrum style toilet. Clivus Multrum is Swedish for sloped chamber, and the way it worked is the waste went in the top, it slid down, and eventually in the process, time allowed it to convert to compost. The key advantage of this was that it allowed the outhouse to be brought inside. The air ventilation provided some degree of aerobic digestion, which is odorless, but it required, to maintain that, you had to kind of keep rotating the waste. These are NSF approved, and the application is for rest stops, state park restrooms, things of that nature.
What does Clivus Multrum stand for?
Sloped chamber. Probably the modern version of the next generation of composting toilet is what you see before you there. It's a self-contained unit. You just kind of plunk it in on the floor and then run an air vent to it. This particular model is a Sunmar model, relies on a rotating chamber. Another manufacturer, Envirolet, has some rakes that you just kind of move back and forth to kind of stir the waste up to kind of keep it oxygenated, keep it mixed. There's another manufacturer that you have vertical paddles that kind of stir it up much like you mix a bucket of paint. The maintenance involved with this is the putting in the microbes and a mixture of peat moss and wood chips. And then the analogous action for flushing is you take the drum and you kind of rotate it.
So the rotation or the stirring is hand activated?
You can get, this is a manual version. They do come with an electric generation. There's 120 volt, 12 volt, and manual operation. So you have options with this particular manufacturer. The byproduct is a dry, odorless compost that typically is removed every 3 to 4 months with normal use in a residential. The reason being is that the first action that happens during this process is the waste basically dries out to about 20% of what it was, because most of your waste is water. And
that's 20% by volume?
It reduces to 20%. It reduces 80%. Gotcha. The next level up would be this model, only with a remote composter, out of sight, out of mind. It makes for a little bit more of a restroom that most people are used to looking at. Everything is it's automated. The same thing applies, whether you get 12 volt, 120 volt, or manual operation for the composting. And this is another view of it, of how it works. Again, the Envirolet in the bottom, which is just sort of a back and forth operation.
So while these things have an air vent, do they attempt to maintain negative pressure within the unit?
That's kind of a byproduct of the ventilation process. You can see in the bottom left of this unit they have an air inlet that basically allows the air to come through, and it serves two purposes. It serves to oxygenate the waste, but also maintain a negative pressure in the water closet so you don't have any odors emanating into the house.
As far as your stack, does it have to have a turbine on top of it, or what a typical plumbing stack without air circulation?
I think they're recommending a turbine, not so much in a plumbing application. You're looking to basically keep from sucking traps dry. And what purpose of this is to keep continuing drawing oxygen across, to keep oxygenating the waste, to keep it from going anaerobic and then causing your odors. This is a next level up. This is a 1 pint per flush. Again, this is almost totally very similar to what you see in your normal restroom. And you think in terms of acceptance by women, I guess, when you think about these things. This is a pedal flush. If you look at it, we've got a picture later on that's if you look in the bowl, it looks like something you'd see in an airplane. It has a little gate there. Again, it goes down the bottom. Everything else applies. Periodically, you need to put in the wood chips. Any kind of wood chips except cedar will work.
And it's a washdown system.
Yeah, that's 1 pint per flush. This is a hotel that I stayed in on an island in Panama. It's totally off grid. They have solar for their electricity. They have rainwater catchment, and they have composting toilets, and they have a leach field out the back for all their gray water, their showers and that sort of thing. The rainwater goes through one of those ultraviolet things that I had in my presentation yesterday. But you can see that there is a little gate there. There's a little Euro effect there that they use that little shower, a vegetable spray there as a wash down and a kind of a poor man's bidet as well there. Again, the composter's down the bottom. This particular thing was, they did have 110 for the operation of this thing. Benefits of the leach fields. This is kind of the complementary part of this. That once you get rid of the black water, the gray water becomes a much simpler component to work with. Use composting toilets. Again, as I just said, you kind of separate out the gray and the black. It can be recycled and reused on site. Conserves the water because you don't have the requirement for the water to flush the johns. Energy conservation. We talked yesterday about the amount of energy it takes to produce water. All that's eliminated. Gravity fed, solar powered. Another benefit, you have fewer chemicals used to clean the water and gray water, typically because you have less water, less off-site contamination, and that's a bigger deal and might become apparent because, again, what we tend to do is just flush it, it all goes downstream, and it becomes somebody else's problem. This becomes an asset on site. It's a low-tech concept, lower cost than central plants or septic fields. In fact, one of the big selling features of this thing is that in Indiana, if you have a failed septic system, these will come in and be because you've taken away the black water, the remaining gray water becomes a little bit smaller problem for the septic tank, and they'll actually kind of regenerate themselves just by taking off that black water load. And it's easy to maintain. You can take apart the seat and just easily wash it out.
The states recognize a distinction between a leach field that's handling just gray water as opposed to black water.
Good question. The first thing you got to do is you need to investigate the permit process. In Indiana, the people I talk about, they didn't distinguish between leach field and septic field. It all boiled down to if you had so many bedrooms, you had to have so many square feet of septic field, they call it.